The day my mother found out about Journey and me, everything changed in an instant. She stood in the doorway of my childhood bedroom, her face twisted in disbelief and rage as she held up the text messages she had accidentally seen on my phone. "This is a mistake, Chloe, a terrible mistake," she shouted, her voice echoing through the quiet suburban house in Ohio. "You cannot throw your life away on this kind of confusion." I felt my heart pound against my ribs as I stared at her, unable to speak at first. Journey was not a confusion or a phase. She was the woman who made me feel seen for the first time in my 23 years. We had met at the university library during my senior year, both reaching for the same psychology textbook. Her laugh was warm and her eyes held a kindness that cut through the loneliness I had carried from growing up in this conservative town. But now, with my mother looming over me, all that joy felt fragile. "How long has this been going on?" she demanded, slamming the phone down on my desk. "I have raised you better than this. Love between two women is not real love, it is a sin against nature and God. Think of your father and your sister. What will people say at church? You are destroying our family with this selfishness." Her words stung like sharp blades, slicing into my deepest insecurities. I had always been the good daughter, the one who volunteered at the local shelter and maintained perfect grades to make my parents proud. Coming out was never part of the plan, but falling for Journey happened naturally, like breathing. We had kept it secret for months, stealing moments in her apartment on the other side of town. But secrets have a way of unraveling, especially in a small community where everyone knows everyone. "Mom, please," I begged, tears welling up. "I love her. This is not a choice or a mistake. It is who I am. You have no idea what it feels like to hide this part of yourself every single day." She laughed bitterly, crossing her arms. "I know more than you think about mistakes, Chloe. But I chose the right path. I married your father and built this family. You will do the same, or you will regret it for the rest of your life. Pack your things if you insist on this foolishness. I will not have it under my roof." The argument escalated as my father Robert walked in, trying to mediate, but his silence spoke volumes. He avoided my eyes, clearly uncomfortable with the topic. My younger sister Emily peeked from the hallway, her eyes wide with confusion. At 16 she looked up to me, but now I could see the judgment forming, already influenced by our mother's strong beliefs. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the weight of her disapproval crushing me. Was she right? Was my love for Journey just a rebellious phase that would lead to loneliness and regret? Society around us certainly thought so. Friends from high school had already started whispering when they saw us together at the coffee shop. One even pulled me aside to warn me about ruining my reputation. The pressure was building like a storm ready to break. I texted Journey late that night, my fingers trembling. "She wants me to end it. Says it's a mistake that will destroy everything." Journey replied quickly with her usual strength. "We knew this would be hard, baby. But our love is real. We can face this together. Do not let her words make you doubt us." Her words gave me a spark of hope, but the fear lingered. The next morning I decided to stay at home for now, hoping to reason with my mother. But the tension was thick. Every meal was silent, my mother avoiding conversation unless it was to remind me of my duties as a daughter. I threw myself into work at the local community center, where I counseled troubled teens, hoping the distraction would help. Yet inside my mind raced with questions. How could the woman who taught me about compassion be so harsh on this? Was her faith blinding her, or was there something deeper? Little did I know that the answers were hidden in plain sight, waiting to upend everything we thought we knew about our family. One afternoon, while my mother was at her book club, I wandered into the attic looking for old family photos to perhaps remind her of happier times. Dust-covered boxes lined the walls, and I sifted through them carefully. Then I found an old leather-bound diary tucked away in a box labeled "Personal Mementos from her college days." The pages were yellowed with time, and as I flipped it open, my heart stopped. The first entries were innocent enough, describing her life at the state university in the early 90s. But then the name Sarah appeared repeatedly. My mother's handwriting grew more passionate, as she described secret meetings, late-night talks, and stolen kisses. "I love her more than I can express," she wrote. "Being with Sarah feels like coming home to a truth I never knew existed. But my parents would never understand. They expect me to marry a good man and settle down." I sat there frozen, the diary heavy in my hands. My strict religious mother, who condemned my love, had once lived the same reality. She had loved a woman deeply but apparently chose to bury it. The shock hit me like a wave. All her lectures about mistakes suddenly rang hollow. Was this the source of her anger? Was she projecting her own regrets onto me? Tears streamed down my face as I read further. Entries about the pressure from her family, the guilt that consumed her when she ended things with Sarah to please them. I made the right choice, she wrote years later, but why does it still hurt? I cannot let Chloe make the same error no matter what. My hands shook. This discovery changed everything. Did I confront her with this truth or keep it secret to avoid more pain? The moral weight pressed down on me. Using this could destroy her, but staying silent meant accepting her judgment on my life with Journey. The family was already fracturing, and this secret could either heal or shatter us completely. I hid the diary in my room, my mind swirling with possibilities. That evening when my mother returned, I looked at her with new eyes. The woman I thought I knew was a stranger now. The confrontation loomed, but I needed time to process the betrayal I felt. Not just her past, but how she had hidden it while preaching to me. Journey noticed my distraction during our next secret meeting. "What's wrong?" she asked, holding my hands across the small table in her apartment. "You seem miles away." I wanted to tell her everything, but the words stuck. "My mother has her reasons," I said vaguely. "But I am not giving up on us." The decision to fight or flee weighed heavily as the days passed. The social whispers grew louder. A neighbor had seen us and mentioned it at church. My father's coworkers asked awkward questions. The pressure was mounting, and I knew a breaking point was coming soon. Inside, I wrestled with the morality of it all. Was my mother's choice to conform the noble sacrifice for family, or was it cowardice that now poisoned her ability to accept me? And what about my own path? If I chose Journey, would I be selfish like she claimed, or brave in living my truth? The answers were not clear, and each option carried a heavy price. As the week ended, I knew I could not keep the diary hidden forever. The truth demanded to be faced, no matter how painful. But first, I needed to understand my own heart completely before the storm hit our family with full force. The next morning, I woke with the diary burning a hole in my drawer. I could not pretend anymore. During breakfast, when my mother set the plate of eggs in front of me, I pulled the small book from my bag and placed it on the table between us. "Mom, I found this in the attic last night. I think you need to explain." Her face went pale as she recognized the cover, her hands trembling as she picked it up. "Where did you get that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I read some of it, Chloe," I said quietly, watching her eyes fill with tears. "You loved Sarah. You lived. What you are telling me is a mistake. How can you say that to me when you know exactly how it feels?" The kitchen fell silent except for the clock ticking on the wall. My father walked in from the garage, wiping his hands on a rag, and stopped when he saw the diary. "What is going on here?" he asked, looking between us. Margaret sat down heavily, her shoulders slumping. "It was a long time ago, Robert," she said, her voice breaking. "College foolishness. I was young and confused. I chose the right path for us, for our family. Chloe, you cannot use my past against me. That was different. I learned from it." "Different how?" I demanded, standing up, my chair scraping the floor. "You wrote that it still hurt years later. You said you could not let me make the same error. Yet here you are forcing me to hide who I am, just like you did. Journey is not an error. She is my future." Robert read a few pages, his face hardening. "Margaret, this is news to me too," he said, his tone measured but firm, the lawyer in him emerging. "We have been married 30 years and you never mentioned any of this. How am I supposed to process that?" Emily came downstairs at that moment, drawn by the raised voices, and asked what was wrong. I could not shield her anymore. The argument spilled into the living room, with everyone talking at once. My mother insisted her past was a youthful indiscretion, a test from God that she passed by choosing marriage and children. I countered that her pain had made her blind to my happiness. Dad tried to keep peace, suggesting we all take time to think, but the damage was done. Emily looked at me with a mix of awe and fear, whispering later that she did not know what to believe anymore. That afternoon I drove to Journey's place, my mind reeling from the confrontation. She listened as I poured out every detail of the diary and the fight, her arms around me, offering the steady support I craved. "Chloe, this explains so much," she said softly. "Your mom is fighting her own ghosts. But that does not give her the right to control your life. We have to decide what is best for us." We spent the evening planning small steps, like me moving out soon to reduce the daily tension. Yet guilt gnawed at me. Was exposing her secret fair payback, or was I becoming the judgmental one? Back home, the atmosphere was icy. Mom avoided me, Dad buried himself in work files, and Emily stayed in her room texting friends. A call from my aunt the next day confirmed the news had leaked somehow, perhaps from Emily mentioning it in confidence. The church ladies were already asking questions. I lay awake again, weighing the cost. Staying silent would have kept the peace, but at what price to my soul? Revealing the diary forced honesty but risked tearing the family apart forever. Journey and I met for a quiet walk in the park the following evening, holding hands despite the risk of being seen. Her presence reminded me why I was fighting. Our love was not the mistake my mother claimed. It was the truth I had been denying too long. The days blurred into a cycle of tense meals, whispered arguments, and stolen moments with Journey. I started packing boxes in secret, preparing for the inevitable move. My mother watched with sad eyes, once muttering that she only wanted to protect me from the pain she knew too well. But protection felt like control now. The inner battle raged. Did I owe her forgiveness for her past choices, or did she owe me acceptance for mine? The family that once felt safe now felt like a cage, and I knew the locks were about to break wide open. The church potluck on Sunday turned into the first public test. Whispers followed me as I helped set up tables, the usual smiles replaced by curious glances. My mother smiled through it all, playing the perfect hostess, but I saw the strain in her eyes. After the service, the pastor pulled me aside, gently suggesting counseling for family matters. Word had spread faster than I imagined. At home that night, the full family meeting happened without warning. Dad called us all to the dining table, his face serious. "We need to talk this through like adults," he said. "Margaret, you have to explain your side. I read more of the diary last night. It was not just college fun. You loved that girl deeply." Mom broke down then, sobbing into her hands as years of suppressed feelings poured out. "I did love Sarah," she admitted through tears. "We planned a life together until my parents found out and threatened to cut me off. I chose safety, Robert. I chose you and the kids. It was the hardest decision of my life, and I have lived with the what-ifs every day. Chloe, I see you heading down the same road, and it terrifies me. The world is not kind to women like us." Her vulnerability cracked something in me. For the first time, I saw not the stern mother but a woman trapped by her own choices. Emily reached for her hand, offering comfort, while I sat frozen, processing the layers of pain. Dad rubbed his temples, the shock clear on his face. "This changes things," he said quietly. "But we are a family. We figure it out together." Yet the reconciliation was short-lived. The next day, my aunt called my mother in a panic. "The whole congregation is talking, Margaret. Some are saying you are a hypocrite for preaching against sin while hiding your own." Mom hung up pale and turned on me. "This is your fault, Chloe. If you had kept quiet, none of this would have happened." The betrayal stung. I had not told anyone, but the diary had been left out briefly, and Emily must have peeked. Accusations flew until Journey arrived unannounced to pick me up for a planned dinner. Seeing her in the driveway, my mother blocked the door. "You are not welcome here," she said coldly. "You are the reason my daughter is throwing everything away." Journey stood tall, her voice calm. "Mrs. Thompson, I love your daughter. I am not the enemy." But the door slammed in her face. I grabbed my bag and left with her, the sound of my mother's sobs following me down the street. In the car, Journey held my hand tightly. "We can get through this," she whispered, but I saw the doubt in her eyes for the first time. The cost was mounting for both of us. Over the next week, social isolation set in. Friends canceled plans, coworkers gave awkward smiles at the community center. Emily came home from school in tears after kids teased her about the family drama. Dad buried himself in cases at the law firm, avoiding the house. I moved into Journey's apartment, the small space feeling like freedom and prison at once. Nights were filled with talks about the future, moving to a bigger city, starting over. But leaving meant abandoning my family and their pain. Reading more diary entries alone one evening, I found the final pages where Mom described the day she said goodbye to Sarah. The regret was raw, the love still alive beneath the duty. It mirrored my own fears. If I gave up Journey, would I carry the same emptiness? The moral dilemma consumed me. Was protecting my mother's secret worth sacrificing my happiness? Or was exposing the truth the only way to force real change? Journey supported every choice, but the weight was mine alone. The family fractures widened with each passing day, and I knew the next confrontation would decide everything. The betrayal came from within the family. My aunt, who had heard the rumors from church, decided to intervene by inviting a family counselor to the house without asking. When I arrived for a forced dinner, the stranger sat at the table with brochures on conversion therapy disguised as faith-based guidance. Mom had agreed, hoping it would fix me. I stood up immediately, the chair falling back. "This is not happening," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "You are trying to erase who I am." Journey waited outside in the car, sensing trouble. When I stormed out, she drove us away in silence, my tears flowing freely. That night we talked for hours about boundaries and the price of love. She shared stories of her own family rejection years earlier, how she had rebuilt alone until meeting me. Her strength inspired me, but the guilt over Emily and Dad lingered. They were collateral damage in a war I never started. Work became a battlefield too. A parent complained to the school board about my lifestyle influencing the children after seeing Journey pick me up. The principal called me in for a meeting, reminding me of community values. I defended myself calmly, citing my record, but the writing was on the wall. The job I loved was slipping away. Journey faced similar whispers at her part-time gallery job. Our world was shrinking fast. Inner turmoil peaked during a sleepless night. I reread the diary entries where Mom described the joy of her secret love, the freedom in being true. Then the fear that led to her choice. Was I stronger than her or just more stubborn? If I stayed and fought, would I lose everything or gain respect? If I left, would I become the runaway daughter she feared? Journey sensed my doubt and suggested a weekend getaway to the lake where we first kissed. The trip was healing. Walks in the woods, quiet dinners hand in hand reminded me why the fight mattered. Back home, Dad called a private meeting with me alone. He admitted reading the full diary and understanding Mom's fear, but also seeing my pain. "I support you, Chloe," he said, "but this family is tearing at the seams. Your mother is barely eating. Emily is skipping school. The choice is yours, but the cost is high for everyone." His words echoed the moral dilemma that haunted me. Love should not demand such sacrifices, yet here we were. The pressure peaked when Mom showed up at Journey's door one evening begging me to come home. "I miss you," she said, crying on the step. "I was wrong to hide my past, but I did it to protect you from the same hurt. Please do not make my mistake permanent." I hugged her but could not promise change. Journey watched from the kitchen, her face a mask of empathy and worry. That night we lay awake discussing options, selling the idea of relocating to Chicago where acceptance might be easier. The decision loomed like a cliff edge, each step forward meaning loss behind. Social backlash intensified with anonymous notes in the mailbox and cold shoulders at the grocery store. Emily texted me secretly saying she supported me but was scared to say it aloud. The family was divided, love and duty pulling in opposite directions. I felt the full weight of every choice the diary had forced into the open. Was revealing the truth an act of justice or revenge? Was my mother's silence a sin of omission that justified my rebellion? The answers eluded me as the days turned into a tense waiting game for the final breaking point. The crisis exploded at the annual town fair. Emily had convinced me to attend, hoping for normalcy, but the crowd included church members who openly stared. When one woman approached my mother loudly asking if the rumors were true, Margaret snapped. "My daughter's choices are her own," she said, but the crack in her voice betrayed her. Later in the parking lot, an argument erupted between us. "You exposed me to this, Chloe," she hissed. "Your selfishness is ruining us all." Journey stepped in, defending me, which only fueled the fire. Mom accused her of stealing me away. The public scene drew onlookers, phones out, recording. By morning the video was circulating online, local news picking it up as a family values story. My job suspension came the next day pending review. Dad called, furious at the publicity. The family name was tarnished in our tight-knit community. In the aftermath I faced the hardest decision yet. Journey suggested we leave town immediately, pack the car, and start fresh. I wanted to, but the thought of abandoning Emily and leaving Mom in her guilt stopped me. Late one night I sat with the diary again, the pages now worn from handling. Mom's final entry before marriage read, "I will bury this love deep so my children never have to choose between heart and home." The words broke me. She had sacrificed everything thinking it was right. Now I was being asked to do the same. A betrayal from an unexpected source sealed the moment. Emily, in a moment of teen confusion, had shared the diary pages with a friend who posted excerpts anonymously online. The town turned against Mom as the hypocrite, while I became the victim in some eyes and the instigator in others. Mom called me sobbing, "How could you let this happen?" I had not, but the damage was irreversible. Journey held me as I cried, the weight of divided loyalties crushing. We spent days in the apartment debating the move. Journey was ready to sacrifice her gallery dreams for our peace. I hesitated, the inner voice questioning if running was cowardice or survival. A visit from Dad shifted things. He brought news that Mom was seeing a therapist, finally facing her past. She wants to try Chloe, he said. But she needs time. Do not leave yet. His plea tugged at my heart. The relationship with Journey strained under the constant stress. One evening she asked if I regretted us. Never, I answered, but the doubt in her eyes lingered. We made love not physically but through long talks, reaffirming our bond. The moral battle inside me raged, was enduring the pain proof of true love or foolish stubbornness? Was Mom's choice decades ago the greater wrong for hiding or mine for forcing the light? The turning point came when Mom texted asking to meet alone at the park. I went expecting more accusations but found her sitting on the bench with the diary in her lap. I was wrong to judge you, she said quietly. Seeing my pain in your eyes showed me my own. Sarah was real. My love was real. But I chose fear. You are choosing courage. I cannot promise acceptance overnight, but I will try. The embrace that followed was tentative but real, the first crack in the wall. Yet the family wounds remained deep, the community still divided. Journey and I decided to stay for now, giving healing a chance while planning a future on our terms. The sacrifices had been immense, but the awakening felt worth the cost. Rebuilding was slow and imperfect. Mom attended family therapy with us, Dad, and Emily joining sessions where truths long buried surfaced. She shared stories of Sarah, the joy and the loss, her voice steady for the first time. I forgave her, not for the past but for the effort now. Emily blossomed with the honesty, openly defending me at school. Dad became the quiet anchor, mediating when old tensions flared. Journey and I found a small house nearby, balancing independence with family ties. Work opportunities opened in a neighboring district, more accepting. The whispers faded as people saw our commitment, the genuine happiness. Yet scars remained. Mom still struggled with public perception, occasionally slipping into old warnings. I understood the source now, the fear born of her own sacrifice. One evening at a family dinner, the mood lighter than before, Mom raised her glass. To choices, she said softly. The right ones and the hard ones. We clinked glasses, the air thick with unspoken understanding. Later, Journey and I walked in the park, the same one where our story deepened. Under the oak tree, she pulled me close, her kiss gentle and full of promise. In that moment, the happiness we fought for felt real and earned. The journey had cost friendships, reputations, and years of hidden pain. I had chosen truth over comfort. Journey had stood by me through every storm. Mom had faced her ghosts, opening the door to healing. But the questions lingered in quiet moments. The family was mending but changed forever. In the end, was the mother's decision to hide her truth for decades the real mistake that rippled through generations, or is forcing everyone to live by outdated rules the greater sin in our modern world?